In the last few years, artificial intelligence has made massive leaps in capability and ease of use. The rise of tools like ChatGPT and Midjourney have created a way for anyone to create essays, art, and other types of content without needing the individual skill and training normally associated with these tasks.
I think they signal the beginning of a road that will see many technological breakthroughs that will be based on AI technologies like machine learning.
This sort of generative technology that's currently out there uses data largely that's been scraped from the web. So my blogs, your blogs, anyone listening who's written stuff online since roughly 2004, their work is potentially swept up in this.
The legal and societal consequences of this rapid emergence of AI could shake the economy to its core.
For myself, as both an economist and an engineer, I'm absolutely shocked at the rate at which some of these generative content mechanisms are improving. There's also been a long-standing debate, what's the impact likely to be on the workforce?
These new AI tools are facing legal pressure from lawsuits, and legislators are also voicing their concern about what AI could mean for the economy. Leaders in the tech sector have even advocated for a so-called AI pause to slow down the emerging technologies that could potentially cause wide-scale disruption to multiple industries.
If Sundar Pichai was sitting right here, I'd be asking, is the implication there that Microsoft's being irresponsible? Because we know that Bing AI is not perfect. And we know that Google's own product is not perfect, so are they waiting for perfection, or is this just kind of an excuse because they're behind?
Are these AI tools the next industrial revolution, or a high-tech Pandora's box? Several companies have already embraced forms of AI as a way forward in a competitive marketplace, while others are taking a wait-and-see approach over concerns about copyright and potential problems with some AI systems. Educators remain concerned about students using AI to complete assignments. But it's possible learning how to use these tools could set some up for careers as so-called prompt engineers who understand how to get the most out of these AI systems. Putting in prompts helps guide the AI towards the final output.
The interaction between humans and AI will become more and more prevalent as we move forward. Then we will see that they can be really good because they can increase our productivity, our efficiency.
Is there a case where you could say, Alex, that why do I need to Google or Bing something if I've got AI? Why don't I just say, hey, whatever phone or wristwatch, what are the best 3 restaurants around where I'm standing right now?
Problems like incorrect or entirely made-up citations, so-called hallucinations by AI, and other problems could put businesses that deploy this new tech in potential hot water, negating the advantage they hope to enjoy.
If the language models are now providing the news soaked up from the journalists without compensation, then the journalists can't make money, which means they get replaced essentially by language models that then can't even be trained on the content that would be correct, and so more and more start making up things as well.
Some of the most at-risk jobs, according to a report by Goldman Sachs, are office administration, legal and business and financial operations. On the other end of the spectrum, production, repair, and cleaning and maintenance jobs are in a safer position. The prospect of a runaway evil AI has been explored in countless science fiction books and movies, and when things like fake images of the former president getting arrested go viral, it can reinforce the view that AI tools are dangerous in the wrong hands.
Now that AI-enabled forms of manipulation are so accessible and the products that they produce are so convincing, the burden of determining what is factual and what is not really falls on the individual at this point.
You can always misuse technology in order to create harm. And therefore, we need regulation, we need regulatory measures which will increase transparency.
Some governments around the world are considering legislation, and Italy has even banned ChatGPT.
Right now, there are no institutions that exist to regulate or to contain these technologies, and the companies themselves that create the tools and that control them are not providing any semblance of self-regulation.
If you look at North American law, especially U.S. law, it's really hard to see anything that would be very effective against the kinds of abuse that we're worried about here. In Europe, the largest digital platforms are going to be subject to something called the Digital Services Act. And that would require them to make an annual assessment of risks associated with their technology, risks to human rights in particular, and to come back with measures to mitigate those risks and an annual reporting on how effective their measures have been. So that might actually go a fair way towards addressing these issues. Whether it goes far enough, we probably won't know until we have some experience with it. It's probably in the right direction.
A recent report by Goldman Sachs laid out some stark possibilities when it comes to AI in the economy. The report estimates that 2/3 of jobs in the US and Europe and 300 million jobs worldwide could be exposed to automation from new AI advances. The report also notes that some of these potential job losses could be offset by new jobs that would emerge in this post-AI world.
If you go back to Ben Franklin's times, everybody was a farmer practically. And today, the fraction of the workforce that's farmers is pretty darn small, and yet it hasn't caused massive unemployment. New technology gave rise to new opportunities gave rise to new jobs. That's very likely to be the case here.
When we are talking about large language models, we can also talk about specific occupations related to word processing, translation, typing a lot. However, consider on the other side a lawyer that goes to the court to defend the client. So we are going to higher income jobs. So AI could be of a tremendous help there. I can help you prepare this big pile of documents, combine different pieces of information and and provide also all the evidence together so that the lawyer can go to the court and be more efficient in defending their client.
Even if 300 million jobs aren't exposed to automation from this new jump in AI capability, it's still likely that some industries will face a new wave of disruption in the coming years. Some companies are already leaning into new AI tools to increase productivity.
What exactly the new jobs will be is not so clear, but they're likely to be there. At the same time, it's fair to say very nearly all jobs are in the process of being transformed by new technology. And that's going to have important implications for lots of things.
Misinformation in the use of AI tools to create and respond to newsworthy events will be a new arena of concern.
We need to be diligent when we consume our content on the internet, because even when we consume a piece of media that, we know to be false, but it represents something that perhaps we fear, or perhaps we desire, or perhaps a reality that isn't in fact our own, that can elicit an emotional reaction. We're emotional creatures. Being able to moderate our collective reactions to false content and understand the fact that even once something is disproven, it may still in fact be internalized, is an important thing to understand moving forward.
The issue of bias in algorithms is another thorny issue that tech companies will have to deal with.
So there are two massive issues of bias, one being the skew of who's represented, and the other one being around the sort of language that we use to talk about different subpopulations like women. The issue with the former is that I don't think people understand it, and I don't know that companies understand it. They like to sort of say that because they're sampling from the internet, that this is a representation of humanity as a whole, instead of paying attention to the fact that the demographics of the internet is not a reflection of humanity as a whole.
It's possible these tools could also allow for smaller payrolls as fewer employees are needed.
This is something we observe also in past industrial revolutions, technological breakthroughs. So employment is not under threat, but it is just that we will see some shifts on employment from one job to the other because these technological advances can have a pervasive impact.